welcome to the latest in the interview series on Back of the Net. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so by hitting the button below. We'd really appreciate it. You'll know that over lockdown, we did a series of interviews with ex-Cherries players, managers, people in the media that cover AFC Bournemouth, and much more besides. But what about a current Cherries squad member? Well, you probably know Morgan Scott. He's been on the channel many a time, often outspoken. He plays for the AFCB Ability Count side, and recently I spoke to him about his autism and dyspraxia outside the Vitality, and it's a great video that got lots of feedback. So if you click the card at the top of the screen, you can watch that video now and see more about him. But he also did his own interviews on his Instagram account, and one of them was with Jack Simpson, and this was a very interesting video which was filmed at the very start of lockdown, so just after we all went into isolation, a week or two after that Liverpool game at Anfield where we lost 2-1. If you want to watch the full interview, the link is at the bottom because it includes some chat about coping with lockdown, Aaron Ramsdale, who at the time got tested for coronavirus, and much more besides. However, there was still a lot of relevant content. So thanks to Morgan, we're now sharing this interview on Back of the Net with Cherries star Jack Simpson.
Hello, Jack. How are you?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for coming on this evening. Hope you and the family are keeping well during these times. So, we spoke about the virus and how you're getting back into training and everything. Who was your role model growing up?
I'd say role model growing up would definitely be my mum and dad in terms of their work ethic and how much they would do for me. Would take me everywhere for games, would be working 9 till 5. Dad would be working really late most days, just, making sure that we could all go off and do our own things, me, my brother and sister. So I think as role models, them two definitely would be the two people I'd look at in terms of I'd learn a lot from. Definitely role models and how they would supply for us and, do everything they can to make sure we could do what we wanted to do. But in terms as a footballer, I'd probably say someone like Ronaldo in terms of his work ethic and his dedication would be someone you've got to look at and say is pretty inspirational. It's a great role model. Frank Lampard and Steve definitely as well. Would definitely, I think growing up, as I used to play centre mid a lot when I was younger, probably them two were probably the two I think when I was younger. I really enjoyed watching both of them two, and I'd say two role models that I've always looked at as professionals and as athletes. Yeah, definitely them too.
No, 100%. And that takes me on to the highs and the lows of your career so far. I've looked for you're only 23 according to my note. So you're still very, very young. But, at 23, you still got just under 10 appearances for AFC Bournemouth in the Premier League. That's quite remarkable. Actually, I know you should touch on that for me.
Yeah, obviously I would have liked it to have been more. It's been great that I never really thought when I was younger I'd ever play in the Premier League, let alone a number of times. Not just that, to play against some of the teams that I have against in those appearances has been pretty special, and some of the stadiums I've played at. It's hard to put into words really in terms of to describe them because they're really just what childhood dreams I've been lucky enough to achieve and do. Definitely would love to do them more often and have them experiences more often. Now you've had them a few times, maybe not get comfortable, but you start to get used to it, and maybe things change for you in terms of understanding the consequences and the seriousness of it. Because when you first play, you kind of just all a bit like your buzz and your excitement. And that never really goes away, but things change as the more you play, and I think the older you get. But definitely in terms of, it's hard to put into words. They are just the childhood dreams that I've been lucky enough to achieve so far.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was just watching before we came on this evening, the Brighton game, 5-1 win at Brighton that you started. I can't remember if you played it all, but that, you know, to play one of the, you know, a game down against one of your local rivals down on the South Coast, how that must put into words how much that meant to you personally.
I didn't actually start the game. I came on that one.
Oh, my bad. Did you get
No,
on in
no,
that
I
game?
came on, but no,
How
it was
long did
still
you get?
only like 15, 20 minutes. I think it might not even been quite that. The game was already done when I came on, so I just come
Nah,
on and
well,
just got a few
well,
touches.
you know, at least you had to come. You got to come on, and you know, and that must have been quite a good
No,
feeling to come
still,
on.
yeah.
Yeah. You also got to play. I'm not gonna lie. I can't remember every venue you played at, but you got to play. Come on for Steve Cook against Liverpool earlier this season. Obviously Liverpool are a very, very, very good team at the moment. League title, going away with it. You know, the fact that you got to come on at Anfield, which is quite a one of the best grounds in the whole of the UK. How did that feel for yourself?
Yeah, in terms of actually getting on to play at Anfield is definitely, I'd say, definitely a childhood dream. Like such a incredible stadium and one of the few stadiums you go into and you're really blown away by. You know, I'd been there a couple of times. I think I'd been on the bench a couple of times before. And then I remember when Steve went down and they said, Timo, get ready, you're coming on. I just remember thinking like, wow, I'm actually going to get to play at Anfield. This is pretty cool. The game didn't go, probably in terms of actual games, probably like the lowest moment so far in my career in terms of the mistake for the first goal. But then after that, after like 10, 15 minutes, I actually felt okay in the game. But in terms of actually getting to play at that stadium, a surreal moment, pretty special. Like you said, it's such an amazing stadium. And, you know, every time you hear that song, there's how many times you turn up, hear that song before the game, You Never Walk Alone. It's pretty special.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on that. I went to, I made the long trip up to, I've been up to Anfield and Everton, to Goodison, on two different occasions. But you're right, it isn't a special, and I haven't been. I heard it down at Bournemouth ground, but hearing it up at Anfield is a different standard to You Never Walk Alone. And I know some other clubs do it, but it was incredible. And I think it was just stunning for like a minute. You just sat there and you're just thinking, wow. You know, I was obviously sat in the Bournemouth end, but it's still, you know, as a human, it's still quite a lot to take in, and it was incredible. I think I've got a video somewhere, but no, it was incredible, and I'm glad you have touched on that because it is a powerful song. So that was that takes me on to kind of the highs and the lows of your career. Like, have you had like any injuries or anything?
I guess before I made my debut, no one really knew much about me in terms of Bournemouth fans. I wasn't really involved much. So from the age from probably about 17 to 20, constantly injured. Would take I wouldn't really be fit for long, maybe for either my longest, and then pick up another injury, which is strange for so young to have so many injuries at that stage, which I did. So that was probably that was a difficult time period in terms of, you know, you're so young and you're trying to break through and, you know, make a good impression. But every time I felt like I was doing well, I was usually picking up another injury and it felt like it was kind of knocking me back. Felt like it was hard to get get going really and really like gain some momentum, because football momentum and confidence is so important. You don't realise sometimes you can sometimes go through 2 weeks can fly by and you can be training unbelievably, playing well in games, and it just goes like that. And sometimes a week of it not going well can seem like for a lifetime. It's amazing how momentum and confidence really can be a big factor, I think, in football. Like at Liverpool this season, last 2 seasons, it's just some momentum. It's just every time, even if they don't play particularly well, just gets them through games. So I'd definitely say from that time period would be a low in terms of those injuries. In terms of highs, I think obviously making your debut, and I was lucky enough to score on my debut. That was pretty special.
Sorry, I was just going to touch. That was you scored the first one against Middlesbrough back in October in 2017.
Yeah.
Sorry to interject, just give us some insight into what that was. You know, you not only have you scored your first goal, you scored the opener. That's kind of special.
Yeah, it was kind of, I didn't even know I was going to be playing until the day. We went out in the morning on the main pitch just to walk through some tactical shape, just hand the bibs out to the starters. So like if you're not involved, so usually I would be given, I don't know, you're given a bib for the subs, and you'd line out as an 11 or 10 with a few extra staff just to fill out the numbers, just to walk through tactical shape against their 11, however they'll play or we think they'll play. And then just was given a starter's bib. No one really said anything to me. I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm playing then. And then just obviously leading up to the game, no one really said much to me. It was just like a few words before the game, just go out and enjoy it. Like you deserve to like just like have it like your moment, your day, you've worked hard, so just go out there and enjoy it. And yeah, remember the first half was a bit, sometimes the cup games can be a little bit slow. The opening ones, the first couple of rounds, it was a little bit, I think, if I remember, but I had a good half. And then not long into the second half, just don't usually score, and out of nowhere the ball's in the back of the net. I was running off, celebrating, not what to do. I was in shock, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it was. I think it came off someone's head, and then you kind of like you were kind of on the ground and you kicked it in. It was quite a cute little finish into the bottom corner, but you know the fact that that went in, that was your first goal for Bournemouth, I assume, in terms of at a senior level.
Yeah.
So that was obviously quite special to you to get underway.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, I hate to say it, but not many defenders score. But for Bournemouth, for some reason, every defender seems to score. So I'm sure you'll get a few more in the years to come. But yeah, no, that's great. Jack, how do you reckon you developed? So you joined Bournemouth in 2012. How do you reckon you developed in the 8 years that you've been there?
No, it's been longer than that. I've been there since I was 12, I believe. So I think this is 11th year. So yeah, from the time I started centre midfielder, ended up being a winger, then the fullback, then the centre mid, and then when I turned 18, moved to centre half. So really my first season as a pro, so 18 going on 19, started working that position. So in terms of, it's been played almost, I think, every position on the pitch at some point. And then spent a good couple of years just really working on being a centre half, and you know, a completely different game to being a centre midfielder or a winger. And then over the last 2-3 seasons, I think trying to develop the defensive side of my game has been one of the main things. Definitely feel more comfortable in certain situations. Definitely got a lot more to improve. And definitely, I think, learn from every game, the mistakes I've made. One of the things is defending. You do learn, I think, on the job. And it's not a very forgiving position. So I'd definitely say developing through learning has been one of the main things for me. Because I've always been quite comfortable on the ball and like to play out. So definitely it's been a massive learning curve, and probably been quite big over the last 2-3 years. So I'd say it's probably been one of the biggest developments.
I'm going to touch on your time at AFC Totten. What was your time like there?
Oh wow, that was ages ago. Feels ages
You went
ago.
for a loan,
yeah, that
didn't
was,
you? 2015?
Yeah.
Again, I think I might get that right this time.
No, it's right. Yeah, so that team, and I just really been moved into centre half. It was like a go play men's football, learn how to be a defender, get kicked, deal with situations that I wasn't used to, and you know, be put in men's football, which I think was brilliant, like great for me. Really enjoyed my time there. The club, everyone at the club was so like so kind, like so good to me. All the lads like really took me in well, and knew I was there to develop as a centre half, and were happy to have me, and I enjoyed it so much. It was really good in terms of, as when we had the ball, I tried to dribble out, or I'd play out from the back, so I definitely kicked a lot, even for a centre half. And then as a centre half, a lot of aerial duels, a lot of physical battles against grown men. Where I'd say, even though I was 18, I was still quite skinny. I've always been quite skinny, but I'd say then definitely needed to develop a little bit physically. But it was great to kind of have that game that, you don't always see, and non-league football can really give you that, and I think it was brilliant and definitely what I needed at the time.
No, 100%. And that brings me on to your national cap against Denmark. You got the fact that you got to represent your country at under 21 levels, and the fantastic achievements, and congratulations on that. You won 5-1 according to my note, and you got to play the whole 90 minutes. What obviously, to pay for your nation is a privilege, but how did that feel at such a young age to achieve that?
Yeah, I'd say there's been some special moments, but I think for me, playing for England's always been, I've always wanted to win things and play in the Premier League, but it's been the like ultimate goal, probably the thing that I really want to achieve. So growing up through the younger age groups, never achieved that, and then standing out with the national anthem playing was probably a quite special moment. Obviously, always watching that, when you watch it, I think the live games, you kind of just want that to get out of the way so you can actually watch the game. You're like, oh, can he hurry up? Less maybe sometimes the major tournaments, it feel a bit more special. But actually to get to stand there and sing the national anthem and have the England kit on was like a very special moment, and something that I don't think I'll ever.
Yeah, and then touching back to, obviously, that's fantastic. Then touching back to AFC Bournemouth, your gaffer, Eddie Howe, I met him a handful of times. He's one of the nicest people I ever met. Give us some insight into what he's like from a manager, from a player's point of view in terms of a manager. He's tactically very, very good, we know. Just from your point of view, if you don't mind just giving your opinion on what Eddie's like as a manager.
Yeah, so obviously everyone knows what he's done for the club. He's taken us up from, basically almost relegation, non-league, not even being a football club anymore, liquidated to Premier League 4 or 5 years now. So obviously as a coach, and as a manager, no one can't take anything away from that. But obviously getting to actually work with him personally, tactically, obviously, as everyone knows, very good. But I think his dedication, his work ethic, he's one of the first into the training ground very early, one of the last to leave. I know it's like you'd probably expect that from a manager. Obviously, that just instantly shows his work ethic and his desire, and his passion for the club and football. That's one thing, his passion for the club is second to none, really. I think, a lot of players, in the club do, but, none more than him. He's so passionate about making this, club, keeping this club where it is, and making it even greater and more special than it already is. As an actual manager to work with, he's so the fine details. He's so particular about everything, and he really does care about developing his players. And I think that's his favourite bit, in actually watching his players develop and become better players, and knowing that he's played a part in that, which is obviously for young players is great. It's like what you want from a manager. I'm sure there's managers that are not so fussed about that and just think about the games, which obviously is a massive part of it. But for him to develop players and develop them into the actual team and watch them grow as players, I think is an important job of his and something he takes very seriously and tries to do, which is obviously great to be a part of that. And to be honest, I get to see that firsthand. He's so particular, and he does sit down with you and talk to you about things you need to improve on and work on those things with you. And even if it's not always him, someone else will come do it. It's probably he's been told he needs to work on this. Let's do this with him after training. So yeah, I guess as a manager, is passionate, particular like fine details. He is everything. It doesn't really leave any stone unturned. Great to work for as a young player.
Yeah, no, brilliant. I'm just going to take it away from football if you don't mind for a second. What is there any other sport that you like? Most football like golf. Obviously that isn't the case for everyone. Is there any other sports you like apart from football?
Yeah, I'm not a golf fan really. I'm more of I quite like my American sports, to be honest. I'm a massive basketball and NFL fan, American football fan. I think when Emerson Hyman was here, me and him were quite close. So he introduced me, kind of knew it and kind of didn't mind it, but I wouldn't say I was massive on it. But I think he introduced me to that a little bit more. So obviously coming from America, he's quite into them sports, especially
Hyman, is that
basketball. Yeah,
Emerson Hyman?
Emerson, yeah, Hyman. Yeah. So we used to live together a couple of years back, so really introduced me into them. And since then, I've become a massive basketball and NFL fan, and been lucky in an actual basketball game in Madison Square Garden, which was pretty cool. So yeah, I'd say them two are my favourite two sports, and something football's still the main one. I'll pretty much watch every game I can, and them games are usually, the American games are usually on a bit too late, but I always watch the highlights in the morning at breakfast. And like a few of the lads that do watch it, I sometimes talk to them about it.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. It kind of takes me on to my next question. Like, what do you do to take yourself away from kind of football and relax yourself? But I think that, as you said, does that kind of relax you, or is there anything else that you kind of do to take your mind off football? Obviously, I can imagine it's pretty difficult. But yeah.
Yeah, so obviously I enjoy them kind of things. I've got quite a close group of friends outside of football that I spend a lot of time with when I can, which are great. Sometimes I play Xbox with them. Sometimes even just to swim. I like to read as well, which sometimes can be a distraction. But no, I'd say the main thing now is my puppy, my dog, that I was planning on getting at the end of the season. But because of the way things were and knowing I was going to have quite a bit of time off, I got him just before lockdown, really, so I could get to spend time with him. So I'd say he's probably, takes my mind off it the most. Not even by choice, just because you're constantly having to watch him, and as everyone knows, puppies can be hard work.
Awesome. I knew when we were setting this up last night, I know that you wanted to touch on myself a bit in terms of ability count. So have you got any questions that you want to ask me? Feel free to ask anything.
Yeah, so now obviously I just saw it on your profile last night, and I obviously knew that AFCB had a team. I guess more from my naivety, didn't really actually know a lot about the team or what you guys play, train, what you guys are about, and kind of, I guess, wanted to know a bit more about that, and then was going to ask you if you put more personal questions about it.
Yeah, so I play for a disability club. So I started playing for AFC Bournemouth at 7. So I have mild autism and complex dyspraxia, which is a muscle condition, coordination difficulty from the brain. So that makes football quite a lot harder. I'm quite skinny and stuff. I'm 6'5", so but it does make football quite hard. But in terms of playing, just being able to represent AFC Bournemouth, you know, as you say yourself, to me, it doesn't matter what level it's at, if it's disability or, you know, of course, I would have loved to have been a pro, you know, that's everyone's dream, but being realistic, that couldn't happen. But no, as I say, I played for them for just over I think it's 15 seasons. Obviously, this one has been cut due to the situation. But yeah, I've done some cool things in terms, so in 2016, we went overseas for a disability tournament in Dusseldorf in Germany, and we did that from 2016 to 2019. Luckily, well, not luckily, we didn't. It wasn't arranged for this year, but we wouldn't have been able to probably go anyway with everything going on. So that was kind of fortunate. But yeah, no, that was a fantastic opportunity. Got to go to Mönchengladbach Stadium. Although they didn't talk very good English, so luckily we got to go back the next year where we had someone who did her masters here, so luckily that was okay. And then in 2018 was in my opinion, was probably the best year. We got to go to PSV Eindhoven for a stadium tour in the Netherlands, so that was kind of nice. And then a little McDonald's trip to get off a coach after like 9 hours is also very, very nice. So to have a McDonald's in Eindhoven was kind of a bit different. A little walk around for someone who's 6'5", that's always very appreciative. So no, that was good. And as I say, you know, it really, you kind of see people come out of their shells over there. So I seen a lot of different people just being a little bit more chatty and just different to how they are back home. So that was really nice to see. Also, I would go on to say I've been very lucky myself. So I played at Stamford Bridge in a tournament over there. St Mary's, the Cobham Chelsea's training ground, Marchwood St Is training ground, and quite recently at Brighton Hugh training ground. That's just a few places, you know, there have been a lot more. But yeah, no, that in terms of where I've been, that's kind of some of the good things. But yeah.
Oh, that's sick. Sounds like you played at more stadiums than me. So yeah, obviously you said you've been playing for 15 years now with the AFC disability team. Is that what you said, 15?
Yeah.
If you had to pick, obviously I'm sure there's been a lot. One moment, one game, or one thing that you've done as a team. Obviously you said you went to Germany, went to PSV Stadium, or even just one moment or someone that the team's met. What would you say has probably been the highlight of that 15 years?
That's tough. I'm going to probably go with two. Getting a hat-trick at Stamford Bridge was kind of special. That was kind of, that was up there, you know, you're getting 3 goals at Stamford Bridge. You know, not many people get that opportunity, so I don't take that for granted. So that was always nice. And then I would say 2018 in Germany, 2019 in Germany. I think the team I played with, no one was kind of the eye. Everyone just bonded and got on with the task. You know, someone made a mistake, it was like, mate, just do better next time kind of thing. There was no like negativity. So I would say that was definitely up there and I think it was just like to be like, sometimes people forget football is just like, obviously everyone wants to win, you know, that's the passion, but I think sometimes football is just about enjoyment more than anything. And I don't think if you're being told to, you know, you're being sworn at or being told you're crap or whatever, I think that kind of, I've been told that myself, and it just kind of puts you down and then you just don't want to do it anymore. So I think the fact that you can kind of come out with it on the other kind of side, I think that's amazing. And I'm hoping in the net, I think I've got a trial coming up in the next couple of weeks to go and play, like, I'm going to obviously stay at Bournemouth, but I want to play more often. So I'm going to go and play Saturday League. I think I have a trial with Broadstone in a couple of weeks, so that should be good when it's safe to do so. So yeah, I think it's really important to follow your dream. I would really like to just play week in, week out. Not saying Bournemouth are rubbish, but the amount of there isn't as many games as I would like. So yeah, I think to play week in, week out would be amazing, just to keep a bit more fitness up as well. I think training once a week is fantastic, but then playing once a month, it kind of gets a little bit like, So yeah, that's kind of my opinion on that, if that makes sense.
No. Obviously, you just said then obviously about you said as a team, you've like that one team all bonded really well and were very positive. Obviously, sometimes playing football can be a positive and a negative. But obviously, for you and your disability, how do you find football in terms of how is that important to you? Is it a release away from some of the things that maybe could be a negative in maybe your life, or things that you might find more difficult? Or what does that football really mean for you in terms of what does that give you? Because I know obviously for me it's obviously a childhood dream, it's a release, but for you it might be something a bit different. Obviously you said you wanted to be a pro and you want to play more games, but obviously in terms of so what does that kind of mean for you? What does that kind of give you?
No, that's a very, very good question. And it's I think people have always told me you can't do something. But I think if you want to do anything, so next year I want to go and do a Ironman, which is going to take a lot of training. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do it like a race or if I'm going to do it statically, but it's one I would like to do it for charity. I don't know what charity yet, but I would quite like to do one to prove to people who's saying I can't do one. But I think in terms of my disability, I kind of don't see myself with a disability, although of course I know that I have autism stuff and a muscle condition, but I kind of see the autism as part of me. In terms of my memory, it's phenomenal in certain areas anyway, but on a good day. But I think it's really important to kind of think that there's always someone, without sounding to be harsh, worse. So the fact that I can still play football is just incredible. And I think, I don't know if they're watching, but shout out to Katie Shepherd and her mum Mary for everything they've done over the last 10 or so seasons, because without them I wouldn't be playing football. So if they are on here or they do see this, shout out to them. And yeah, no, I think it's really important just to be who you want to be, and just in terms of doing the correct thing, you know. Football's also a social interaction. I think I won't be so confident. I definitely won't be talking to you on here, no disrespect, if I wasn't if I hadn't played football for so long, because the confidence it's given me as a person is amazing. And I think it's so easy to get, you know, anxiety based with everything going on in the world right now. I know a couple of years ago I wouldn't have coped with this so well. I know everyone's struggling, but personally I would have found this quite tough. But I think you can either feel sorry for yourself in this situation, or you can kind of like think of it like, okay, this is a little bit different. So I had the opportunity to speak to Simon Francis on a Zoom call last week through Bournemouth. And I, like tonight, for example, I've spoken to yourself. I had Brett Pittman, Warren Cummins, and under 21 international Ryan Glover on in the last maybe 6-7 weeks. So the fact that I've been able to do that is phenomenal. And yeah, I kind of think anyone who's watching this, I think if you've got a disability or anything, like everyone's got anxiety, everyone's got mental health, and I think the best thing you can do is just try and talk to people. I think if you try and bottle it all up, I remember an experience where I got bullied for having autism at my old employment, so I left, and it kind of got me down, and I didn't want to be around. I kind of felt I didn't do anything, I didn't go to football, and I think now I come out at that other side where he looks like the one who's stupid kind of thing, and now I'm at the best I've been in year. It's kind of like the most important thing I could say on the matter.
Well, it was a pretty great answer. That was pretty inspirational. Yeah, well, obviously you can tell, obviously you've been through a lot of important times. It's great to see that, you know, football, and not just football, but the way you see things is so positive, really. You know, like you said, I'm sure people that have watched these have appreciated just these videos as well. I'm sure it's given them something to watch and enjoy, and maybe given them something I've given them something to, you know, that has inspired them. Obviously seeing what you've just said there about your story and things that have happened to you, and how, you know, look at you now you've done some pretty cool things recently, and, you know, got to play some pretty cool places. So yeah, good on you, mate. I'd say that's pretty awesome.
No, thank you. And I think that did you have anything else, or we kind of touched on everything?
Yeah, I kind of had a couple of more questions, but you kind of answered
them
within the questions that I said, in terms of where have you played at. But like,
you got any other quick fire questions
I was going to ask? But I guess, what's your favourite Bournemouth moment so far?
Oh, there's been some good moments. So I think I think 2013 when Ronaldo Bournemouth played Real Madrid. I think that was a really, really big moment for the club. You know, to go and watch Ronaldo play, that's the first time I had that experience, and not many people had that. So I think that was one of them. I would also say my favourite ever moment was the 3-0 win at Stamford Bridge in 2018, when we were just incredible that night. I remember getting back on the bus and we were all singing Lewis Cook. He's gonna we were just absolutely heaving. We came out of that stadium, and it probably took me like 2 hours into the journey before like I could stop kind of like Do you know what I mean? But then, having said that, someone just put it in the comments. I would say obviously Bolton, and then the Valley. I think they were, another 2 brilliant games. So I would say them 4 games for me, kind of sums it up. But yeah, no, that's kind of my 4 games. I know it's kind of more than you said, but yeah, Bournemouth are a very, very good side and community based. So yeah, no, 100%. In terms of you coming on, you giving me 50 minutes of your time. Again, thanks so much for asking some questions. That's very nice of you. You come on, you've given me just over 50 minutes of your time. Yeah, really appreciate it. Stay well and keep safe, and hopefully I'll get to come and be watching you again as soon as it's safe to do so. Awesome. Thanks very much, Jack.
Yeah. No, thank you for having me on. Thank you for all the great questions.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Back in the net! Back in the net!